Whatever happened to Abrego Garcia? You're going to want to know about it. It's important not just to a guy named Abrego Garcia, but to our democracy, and to watch a federal judge, or at least three of them, Judge Crenshaw, Judge Holmes, and Judge Zinnes in Maryland, sort of figure out how to restrain Donald Trump. It's a masterclass. You're not going to want to miss it. We cover it on the midweek edition of Legal AF, hosted this week by Dina and Lisa Graves. Take a listen.
We're going to break down our last topic regarding today's hearing. Abrego Garcia, who has been through quite a bit and has really become, I would say, kind of a flashpoint for both sides. You know, those of us who really believe in the rule of law and the fact that the U.S. admitted that they had mistakenly deported him to this El Salvadoran president, and now he was brought back only to be charged criminally. And then, of course, for Trump, it's really becoming, I think, a symbol of him believing he can do whatever he wants to anybody at any time. So what happened was in June, there was a bail hearing of whether or not he was going to be released pending trial. And because the government could not state that they would not deport him while he was out on bail, the judge there, the magistrate judge Holmes, said that although he was not a threat to society, which is usually something that would keep somebody in jail pending their criminal trial, she was going to keep him because she did not have assurances that he was going to be deported. So this hearing today was with the judge, Judge Crenshaw, who's actually going to oversee the trial. Judge Holmes previously is going to be dealing with the pre-trial type issues. So Judge, it's this irony here situation, Lisa, because we have the DOJ, the prosecution, asking that Abrego Garcia be released pending his criminal trial. This is like a complete flip from what we normally see. All of this happening at the same time, actually, is the civil case in Maryland is proceeding, and they are asking the attorneys, asking the judge to issue an order that he has to remain in the U.S. in that case. So there's multiple cases going on with him, and perhaps whether or not that judge issues an order may affect also whether or not he's released. Judge Crenshaw has said that he's not issuing an order today, maybe sometime this week or next. But interestingly, some of the defense attorney, his attorney, got a chance to poke some holes, let's say, at the evidence, I'll say evidence, that the prosecution is putting forward to indict him. And kind of what I said before the break, you know, he now has a whole set of rights. As a defendant in this country, we have, or that person has quite a bit of rights that weren't maybe afforded to him, right? As somebody who was a non-citizen, the immigration courts, although there is due process there, he now has this all on top of it. His attorneys were already able to get a gag order, right? Against Pam Bondi and the other DOJ attorneys. Hey, stop lying about me. They're calling him a criminal left and right. He's never had a conviction. He's just an alleged criminal. They're talking about his character, irrelevant information to it. He wasn't able to get that kind of gag order, right, with his immigration case. But now, as a criminal defendant, he has a right to a fair and impartial jury. And if they go out talking about him, they are prejudicing or potentially prejudicing a jury. So he's got these rights that he didn't have before. So it's interesting because, yes, you could argue that the DOJ made this move to get the upper hand, but in a lot of ways, they have put themselves into a system where he has quite a bit of rights. As Donald Trump knows, as he afforded himself every single one of those rights when he was convicted during his trial. Anyway, so we have today some of the interesting, let's say, polls that they poked through. One of them was the fact that they are asking, or that prosecutors have alleged that Abrego Garcia solicited nudes from a minor on Snapchat, right? That's one of their allegations. There's so many kind of allegations that they're alleging here. And the defense attorney pointed out the fact that the birth date on that Snapchat account that the prosecution is using, saying that this is Abrego Garcia's, doesn't even match his birth date, right? So and it came out in the hearing that the investigator who's working for the prosecution didn't even know Abrego Garcia's birth date. Now, have filed true crime cases quite a bit. This is messy. You do not get a conviction with this kind of testimony. I mean, I know we're way far from a trial, but it doesn't even seem like that's the bare minimum. Okay. Right. Lisa is like knowing the birth date. So that way you can confirm the Snapchat account can actually be linked to the defendant and not just words to a court. So that came out, as well as the fact that one of the other pieces was this was another. It was one of the lead witnesses that the prosecution plans on putting forward if this goes to trial was calling other witnesses from the jail. And when the defense was asking them whether or not they could have coordinated the testimony, it was brought out that 3 of the witnesses are actually related. So this kind of hearing, what came out of this kind of hearing today shows, I haven't seen all the evidence. I can't say for certain, what evidence there is or isn't. But when you have a hearing like this and they can so easily point out this kind of holes, I mean, having witnesses speaking to each other, possibly coordinating testimony, you can just get that whole thrown out, right? You may not even be able to introduce that kind of testimony in court. You have to be able to only introduce testimony in a jury trial if it's reliable, if it's credible. This is like a gold minefield for the defense attorneys, it seems like today.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the rules for witnesses coordinating their statements it's pretty clear. I confess that I actually declined to take a detail to go work as an assistant U.S. attorney and stayed at Maine Justice, but I did work on criminal justice policy, and I've watched a lot of your work, Dina, and other work covering trials. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like what we're seeing here, including, as you point out, the idea that the situation is so reversed where you have the prosecutors trying to get him out of jail. This basically almost never happens. Prosecutors are usually calling for bail or no bail under some of the rules that we operate under in the federal system, not calling for him to be released. And then the defendant usually wants to be released to go be with their family as they prepare for their defense. But in this instance, this is acting almost like the denial of, or at least so far, it may happen next week or in the next hearing. But in this instance, the defendant doesn't appear to want to be released until there are guarantees that he won't then be deported, because that's what the Trump administration has said, that if the judge grants bail, they will remove him from the country mid trial. If that's not an indication that your criminal prosecution is weak, I'm not sure what is. But on top of that, as you point out, Dina, in civil court in Maryland, Abrego Garcia's lawyers are also trying to protect his ability to stay in the United States, not be just surreptitiously removed again to the United States. And so everything is sort of upside down and topsy-turvy. And this question of witness, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to call it witness tampering per se, but witness coordination is something that is usually very tightly restricted in grand jury proceedings and beyond. And in this instance, when you look at this case from the beginning to now, what you see, as you pointed out, was that the head of the Office of Immigration Litigation in the Justice Department, I think he was fired because he was in court and conceded that there was not evidence that basically justified Abrego Garcia's removal from the United States. But in essence, the Department of Justice was taking the position that they could just remove people, in essence, without evidence if they asserted this power, this extraordinary executive power. And that's another part of the Justice Department that has been, has had a spate of firings, of people retiring, of people taking early retirement or buyouts. The civil division, which is the defense part of the Justice Department, has been under extraordinary pressure from Pam Bondi, from the Attorney General, Trump's loyalist, and from her henchmen, in essence, to basically, do whatever they can to buck up Trump's claims and Trump's case. And that's why, after weeks of saying, of basically that innuendo about Abrego Garcia, the photoshopping, claiming that he was an MS-13 gang member, et cetera. After all of that innuendo, finally the Department of Justice issued an indictment, and he's now back, facing this criminal trial, these criminal accusations. But that indictment was immediately upon its filing was criticized by legal observers for inaccuracies from the get-go. And so I think when I look at this case as an outsider, it certainly looks like the government's case may be very, very weak.
Perhaps he might get it dismissed, right? I mean, that is, you do, again, as a criminal defendant, the government has to meet burdens and have actual evidence that is reliable in court for a judge to rely upon. So we'll kind of see where this goes, but that is unfortunately, Abrego Garcia targeted by the government. Frankly, that's what's happening here. Targeted by the government, despite the fact that they admitted he was mistakenly deported. And now going through this, you just feel, because this man never asked to be a symbol, right? Even for us, never asked to be a symbol for, the rule of law, right? And due process. But that is what he has become. His wife certainly stepping up to the plate as well, filing her own lawsuit, but really, they were just trying to live their lives, and being caught up in this is really just a further example of the lack of humanity and really where we're at as a country, how disturbing it is. But I'm so glad, Lisa, that you and I got a chance to talk about all these topics. Thank you so much for helping me co-anchor this in the absence of Popak and Karen, who do it so wonderfully every week. But I had a great time with this, and certainly want to keep watching your court accountability. And just how can people find you?
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, I was going to say, Dina, it's a joy to talk with you, to be on this with you, and be part of this network, and to defend due process. Because at the end of the day, people can be convicted. They could be removed if there's evidence, but that lack of evidence, the lack of any independent oversight, that's what risks all of our freedoms. And so I'm really happy to engage in this ongoing dialogue, conversation with you about how we protect the rights of all the people in the United States by ensuring that we have due process.
Welcome back. We do the show twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network. Free versions, ad-free versions, if you will, on Patreon and on Legal AF Substack. There's a lot of ways to support what we do. Come on over, download the audio version. Yes, the audios are important. And leave a comment and a 5-star review. That really helps. We could use some more audio downloads there. On the YouTube version, same thing. Send this clip to people in your life and ask them to join every week, twice a week, Legal AF, the podcast that I co-founded about 5 years ago. That helps as well. We regularly rank in the top 20 of all YouTube podcasts every week, and that's because of you. So until my next report, this is Michael Popak. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, We don't get paid unless you do. The Popak firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.